A devoted police officer mysteriously disappears.
When he didn't show up for his shift that day, people started wondering where the heck he was.
For answers, investigators turn to the missing man's longtime girlfriend. But when they discover that she'd also vanished, police assume the worst.
It was an off-and-on type relationship.
One marred by more than just the occasional breakup.
My brother and I would hear screaming.
She had bruises on her face.
Fearing the tempestuous relationship had finally come unraveled, police embark on a frantic search. But will they find the missing couple in time?
His holsters are there and both his duty weapons are missing.
Or will they be too late?
I just remember hearing some lady's voice. She says, "Well, honey, there's a bullet in your head."
As dedicated as 38-year-old Wayne Irby.
He was very meticulous and detailed, and he was eat up with law enforcement.
If you were breaking the law, he'd write you, and we used to tease him. He was so hard that he'd write his own mom a ticket.
Therefore, it was quite a surprise when Wayne missed roll call at 6 a.m. on December 10th, 2004.
That wasn't Irby. He was always punctual.
Worried, Wayne's coworkers tried to contact their missing friend.
He had called his cell phone numerous times, and it even went over and knocked on his door several times.
And when police attempted to contact Wayne's girlfriend, Denise, they learned she was also missing.
They had talked to her kids at their school, and their mom had not come home the night before.
I tried to call her, and we tried to call Wayne. Neither one of them was picking up the phone.
The dual disappearances sent police on a desperate search. Among Wayne's co-workers on the Little Elm force, it was common knowledge the couple had a troubled relationship.
There were some jealousy issues involved.
They'd been fighting back and forth.
But if police were right and Wayne and Denise had butted heads again, two questions remained. How bad would it be? And if push finally did come to shove, who would fire first? Fresh from a divorce and new to the small Texas town of Little Elm, love was the last thing on Denise Miller's mind in 2002. But that all changed with one knock on her door.
I went to the door and I saw a police car and I became a little nervous.
There was no need to be nervous. The officer merely wanted to introduce himself to the new homeowner on his beat. And before leaving, he also offered Denise a little advice.
He was telling me that I should let my garage down because burglars have a tendency to climb in through the garage and travel through the attic.
A single mom struggling to raise two teenagers, Denise appreciated the gesture, particularly when it came from an officer like Wayne Irby.
He was sharp, well-groomed, his uniform was well-pressed, and badge shined.
A 4-year veteran of the Little Elm Police Department, Wayne was the prototype Texas lawman.
He was very proud to be a police. He always wanted to be a policeman.
He was very meticulous and detailed. He loved his job.
But over the next few weeks, Denise realized that Wayne's interest in her was more than just professional.
He would start calling me and ask me to go out and eat with him and hang out a little bit, so we did that.
A divorced dad, Wayne was an immediate hit with Denise's two teens, Walter and Whitney.
When I first met Wayne, I really liked him a lot. He was fun to be around, and he was funny.
He was a kid at heart himself. He listened to the music they listened to. My kids loved being around him.
With her kids' unanimous approval, before long the couple's romance turned serious.
She was real sweet, real quiet, but she was real nice.
It seemed like a perfect couple.
But were Denise and Wayne really a couple? Or was she just one of the many women Wayne was involved with?
He was somewhat of a ladies' man.
Wayne had a lot of friends that were girls.
Denise didn't care for Wayne's roster of lady friends or his roving eyes. But when she confronted Wayne about his flirtatious ways, he had a ready explanation.
Wayne would always say, "I get paid to look." What he meant that was that as a police officer, he was getting paid to be observant.
But did he do more than just look? According to his reputation around town, Denise certainly had reason to suspect so.
At one time, Wayne did do a lot of running around. He would just draw women. You know, he was like a magnet, and he just dated a lot of women.
Denise didn't like this. They had a lot of problems, jealousy issues.
Although according to Wayne's friends, the problems were mostly Denise's.
She was a very jealous person, and she was very jealous of our friendship.
If he talked to someone that was of the opposite sex, she would get upset about that, accuse him of messing around.
Wayne told Denise she had nothing to worry about. However, Wayne's assurances that he'd given up on womanizing didn't end Denise's accusations. And this time, she'd accuse Wayne of way more than just messing around. One morning in December of 2003, Denise showed up at the Little Elm Police Department. She hadn't come looking for Wayne, however. She'd come to press charges against him.
She wanted to file an assault, a Class A misdemeanor assault, family violence against Officer Irby.
It had all started, according to Denise, the day before. Denise explained that she'd dropped by Wayne's rental house for a talk. But Wayne hadn't been alone.
He had a female friend over at his house. It was a friend that had come in from out of town.
And the ensuing argument, according to Denise, had gotten out of hand.
She was upset, and she was there to tell the officers that she had been assaulted by Wayne Irby.
And she'd apparently taken a beating.
She had bruises on her face, maybe even a cut lip.
At first, Little Elm Police took Denise's allegations seriously.
We took the offense report.
They called Wayne in and talked to him.
And when Wayne came in to talk to his superiors that afternoon, he'd obviously been in a fight too.
He has some bruises and scratches on him and stuff.
But according to what Wayne told his fellow officers, he hadn't started the fight. Denise had.
She showed up and saw the purse there, and she went nuts.
He just told me she jumped on him.
All Wayne had done, he said, was defuse the situation.
He ended up putting her on the ground and sitting on her to get her to calm down.
Denise, according to Wayne, had eventually calmed down. She hadn't forgiven him, though. At least that's how Wayne's co-workers interpreted her assault allegations.
It was a false report. She was trying to get him in trouble.
False or not, in the end, no charges were filed.
She came in a few days later and wanted to drop the charges and said that he was a good officer and she didn't want to see his career hurt.
She finally broke down and said, no, I set it all up, and there was nothing to it.
Regardless of who'd actually started the fight, the bruises faded and Wayne and Denise eventually reconciled. They started dating again and even shopped around for a house.
We took his mom and my mom over to a house that we decided to purchase. And we told them that when we get in the house, we will get married because I did want to do it right.
Wayne's proposal never came, however, and Denise started wondering why. Was Wayne seeing someone else on the side?
She kept accusing him of the same thing over and over and over.
She tried to keep constant tabs on him, too.
He would be out on an accident, and he would go back to his vehicle and say, look at this, she's called me 60 times, wanting to know where I'm at and what I'm doing.
And when Wayne and Denise were together, things only got worse.
My brother and I, we would hear screaming, we go downstairs and knock on the door, and, they'd be like, no, we were just laughing, and you could tell that they were lying.
By October of 2004, Denise's jealousy finally became more than Wayne could take.
He said that he was moving out. He just said that we were bumping heads.
Wayne told Denise he had already rented a new house. She was devastated.
We'd wake up in the middle of the night and see her crying and rocking on the floor.
And by November, Denise received her second rejection in as many months. She lost her job.
She got even more depressed, and everything just kind of went downhill from there.
Unemployed, alone, and afraid of losing her home, Denise turned to Wayne for help.
Wayne, out of compassion and caring for her and her two children, moved back in with her to help her out through her financial issues.
But would the couple's reconciliation lead to a second shot at love? Or roll call at 6 a.m. on December 10th, 2004.
He was punctual every day. There wasn't a day that he didn't show up to work or he was late or tardy.
There was still no sign of Wayne when roll call ended a half hour later. So as the Little Elm officers left the ready room and started their shifts, they conducted a brief search for their fellow officer.
They went to the address that Wayne and Denise had shared together. He wasn't there. His car wasn't there. No sign of him there.
A patrol car also drove by the rental house Wayne had moved out of a few days earlier, a house Wayne still held the lease on.
His vehicle wasn't there. There was no sign of him there.
There wasn't any trace of Denise either. When police called her house, Denise's two teens told them that they hadn't seen her in more than 24 hours.
My mother had not come home. That's very unusual. She always comes home. She's never done that before.
And despite the fact that her children had repeatedly tried to call her, Denise had never answered her phone.
They said they had not been able to contact her, and she always has her cell phone with her. She always keeps it on, especially when she's away from home.
Whitney told police that after multiple voicemails, her mother had finally called them back a little before midnight.
And she was like, "I'm out running errands. I'm just calling to say I love you." And that was weird.
Weirder still, Whitney said their mother didn't answer her phone when they'd called her again the next morning. And the cops wanted to know why. Was she unwilling? Or was she unable? Coming up, a chilling clue has police scrambling for answers and victims.
They found a note in the house that said, "Please forgive me and continue to pray for my soul."
At 9:30 a.m. on December 10th, 2004, officers of the Little Elm, Texas Police Department pulled up outside the home of Wayne Irby and Denise Miller. Irby, a 6-year veteran of the Little Elm Force, had missed that morning's roll call.
He was supposed to show up at 6 a.m., and it was kind of strange.
Wayne wasn't answering his phone either.
If he see my number, he always called me back. And when he didn't call me back, and I kind of figured something, but I didn't know what.
There was just a weird feeling about it. And the more that time had transpired, the worse that feeling got.
And Wayne's girlfriend Denise, as her teenagers had informed police, was also missing.
It's unlike my mother to not contact my brother and I for like more than 2 hours. You know, she's always calling.
The kids had said she hadn't come home that night. They'd actually gotten up, dressed themselves, got themselves ready, and gone to school.
We went to school, and it was just like the longest morning. And they called me into the office when it was like third hour. It was one of his fellow police officers, and they were asking me if I knew where they were.
Whitney Miller had no idea where her mother or Wayne could be. Neither did her brother. By then, police were becoming very concerned.
We went over to his and Denise's house looking for any signs of anything, find out where he was.
The house was empty. Police, however, did find a disturbing clue in the master bedroom.
They found a note in the house that they believed Denise had written that said, "Please forgive me and continue to pray for my soul."
She said she was tired of hurting and letting other people hurt her.
But what exactly was the letter insinuating? Discussions with Wayne's family offered a suggestion. Just one day earlier, he'd left Denise a second time.
I knew that they were having troubles. He had mentioned about going to move back into his homes.
He just told me she just keep bringing things up from the past and she just won't let it go. So I'm moving out.
Armed with the information that Wayne had once again moved out, his colleagues decided to pay another visit to his nearby rental house.
We checked all the windows around the residence, but the blinds were down. You couldn't see inside the windows. It didn't appear as if anybody was at home.
Was it just an empty house, or was it a crime scene? There was only one way to find out.
I went over to wherever the leasing agent was for that house and talked with her. She called the owner of that house, and he ended up meeting us at that house with the keys.
Keys in hand, officers finally entered Wayne's residence.
As soon as we entered the door, there's the kitchen bar, and there's some items sitting on the bar. One was his cell phone. The other was a fanny pack that he carried with him everywhere he went.
The find filled Wayne's fellow officers with a sense of dread.
They implied to me that Herbie was in this residence.
Passing through the kitchen, Officer James Wynn found Wayne laying face down in the hallway.
I rounded the corner to the left, and that's when I saw him laying in the floor.
He immediately rushed to his friend's aid. It was no use. Wayne Irby was dead.
I went to check it for a pulse, and that's when I saw it appear to be a bullet wound to the back of the head.
Who had fired the fatal shot? Police didn't have to look far for an answer.
On the counter, there was a note, and it was written by Denise Miller.
And this note, unlike the cryptic one police had found earlier at the home Denise and Wayne once shared, wasn't a prayer request. It was a confession.
One side said, "I did it, I took our lives, call our mothers." The other side of the note said he was the best police officer that you had.
Our lives, our mothers. Did that mean she'd killed herself and Wayne? If so, why wasn't she lying dead on the floor alongside him?
The main gist of what I saw was that she had killed him and then gotten scared and ran.
The search for Wayne Irby was over. Now, police were focused on catching his killer.
They start looking for her. She's immediately a suspect.
We put out an all-points bulletin to surrounding agencies to be on the lookout for her.
While Wayne's body was being transported to the Tarrant County Medical Examiner's office for autopsy, police returned to the couple's home with a search warrant. There was still no sign of Denise, but the authorities did make an ominous discovery.
His holsters are there, and that's when we really determined that both his duty weapons are missing.
Wherever she was, Denise was apparently armed.
At this point, I think she's a danger to other officers. We put out the teletops to other agencies to make sure that if this vehicle is spotted or she's spotted, they know what she had done and take caution.
Would the caution be necessary? It all depended upon who Denise was more of a danger to, the police or herself. At just past 4 a.m. on December 11, 2004, the night manager at the Ramada Inn in Gainesville, Texas, received an unusual call from a guest in room 106.
The lady saying that she had fallen and needed some help getting up. She stated she didn't need an ambulance, she just needed some help getting up.
Finding the door deadbolted, the manager ordered a hotel maintenance worker to break into the room.
When they entered the room, of course, they saw that the blood on the mattress, the sheets on the floor.
And also on the floor was a critically injured woman. Paramedics and police arrived within minutes of the hotel manager's call to 911. The woman lying slumped on the floor was still very much alive.
She kept telling me that she had just fallen down and she just needed help getting up, and she kept reaching her arm out, asking me to help her up. I asked her what her name was. She never would tell me what her name was.
Judging by her injuries, it was a miracle the woman could even speak at all.
She did have an obvious gunshot wound to the right side of her head. Her right eye was bulging out.
Paramedics rushed the woman to the North Texas Medical Center. While she was en route, police back at the hotel made a positive ID on the mystery woman.
The manager provided us with the registration card. And my corporal, he read the name Denise Miller, and he looked at me and he said, "I think that's the suspect in that shooting."
I was relieved, of course, to find out my mother was alive, and not exactly okay, but she was alive.
Coming up, police figure they've caught Wayne's shooter. But will she remember pulling the trigger?
Daisy, can you tell me what happened in Little Elm last night?
Yeah, okay.
You know Wayne's hurt, right?
I don't think so.
In a Gainesville, Texas hotel room early on the morning of December 11th, 2004, Denise Miller had put a pistol to her head and pulled the trigger. Wanted for the murder of her boyfriend, Wayne Irby, it appeared to be the last act of a desperate woman whose life had spiraled badly out of control.
People were being laid off in her job. She was extremely depressed because it was a combination of her job and Wayne, and it was just too much for her.
News of Denise's suicide attempt quickly reached detectives in Little Elm.
Gainesville found out who she was. They identified her and they contacted us.
I kind of thought that we might get a call a little later on that maybe she had done something like that because she had indicated.
Emergency room of an area hospital.
She shot herself in the temple, and the bullet actually missed the majority of the brain, went around and lodged on the opposite side of her head.
I don't know if she flinched at the last minute, not wanting to do it, or if it was just the lack of firepower she had. I'm not sure, but nonetheless, she failed.
The evidence Gainesville investigators had recovered from Denise's hotel room, however, suggested she'd fully expected to die that night.
There were several blister packs of sleep aid in the trash can, and I remember they were mostly empty.
One of Wayne's missing service weapons had been recovered from the hotel room, the other from Denise's car parked outside. Neither, however, appeared to be the suicide weapon. Instead, police figured the gun Denise had used on herself was the .25 caliber automatic pistol they'd found lying on the hotel room floor.
I think she had originally wanted to try to commit suicide with the .40 caliber being the larger caliber gun.
But that plan had apparently gone awry.
She either was intoxicated from the sleeping pills and the alcohol or wasn't familiar enough with the gun to know how to load it. The bullet had been loaded into the chamber backwards, which of course prevented the gun from firing and jammed it.
And lying beneath the jammed handgun, police had also found yet another suicide note.
She said that she killed him accidentally. She freaked out and she ran.
While Gainesville police were wrapping up the crime scene at the Ramada, investigators from Little Elm walked into the North Texas Medical Center to try and get a statement from Denise.
There's a lot of medical intervention going on. She has a neck brace on. She's on a backboard. I can tell her eyes very severely swollen.
Despite her traumatic injuries, Denise seemed coherent. After reading Denise her rights, Ranger Murphy turned on a tape recorder and questioned her about the events of the past 24 hours.
Daisy, can you tell me what happened in Little Elm last night?
Nothing.
Nothing happened? You know Wayne's hurt, right?
I don't think so.
You don't think so? And how come you left a note there telling me what happened to Wayne?
I don't know.
She was able to remember things that happened before the offense, appeared to remember some things later on that happened after, could not remember what happened immediately surrounding the offense.
However, when pressed, Denise did admit to being in Wayne's rental home on the day of the shooting.
Did you see him there at his new house last night?
Yeah.
What happened there, Denise?
We argued.
You argued?
Uh-huh.
About him moving out?
Yeah.
Then what happened?
I don't know.
She admitted to me that she did have an argument with Officer Irby, but denied shooting him and even denied shooting herself.
With an obvious bullet wound and 2 notes implicating herself in Wayne's death, why would Denise suddenly deny her own involvement? Was she lying? Or was there perhaps another possibility?
When she shot herself in the head, the area of her brain that it damaged was the one that would control that memory.
After being questioned by Ranger Murphy, Denise was sedated and airlifted to a Dallas trauma center. And when she woke the following morning, Denise appeared to have amnesia.
I don't know where I was at. I just remember hearing some lady's voice. I couldn't see anything. Some woman said, "Honey, why did you shoot yourself?" I said, "Ma'am, I didn't shoot myself." She says, "Well, honey, there's a bullet in your head."
That same bullet had also left Denise partially paralyzed and blind in her right eye. But that pain paled in comparison to the shock Denise was about to receive from her daughter.
I said, "Whitney, I need to talk to Wayne."
I had to break the news to her that he was no longer living.
I said, "Whitney, quit playing." I said, "I need to talk to Wayne." She says, "Mom, no, really, Wayne is dead." I was totally confused, and it's like everything was spinning.
Whitney couldn't bear to tell her mother exactly how Wayne had died, however. It wasn't until hours later that a nurse inadvertently brought Denise up to speed.
He says, "You've been on the paper?" He said, "You've been on the news. They said you shot your boyfriend, a police officer."
While Denise struggled with the truth, investigators were busy solidifying their case against her. On December 13th, police received Wayne Irby's autopsy report. The medical examiner's findings showed Wayne died from a single .25 caliber bullet.
The gun that was used was the same gun that she used on herself that was found in Gainesville. That was ballistically matched to the projectile taken from Wayne's head.
But where exactly had the .25 come from? To the police, it appeared unlikely to be Wayne's.
.25 caliber weapon is a small weapon. It's not used in law enforcement.
Running the gun's serial number, police discovered that the pistol was registered to Denise's stepfather. So how did it wind up in Wayne's rental house to fire the fatal shot? To police, the answer appeared obvious: Denise.
Bringing the gun to the scene pretty much tells me that she had ill intentions.
She was a control freak, and she wasn't getting her way. It wasn't going how she wanted it.
On January 18th, after 38 days of rehabilitation and recovery, Denise received her release papers at the hospital.
This guy came, and I noticed he had handcuffs and he had a badge. And he came in, and I believe he read me my rights.
When I picked her up and served the arrest warrant, she came across as a shadow of her original self. She was sitting in a wheelchair. She was slumped over, not speaking, and she wasn't the same person.
Police immediately loaded Denise into the back of a waiting police car, and not just any cruiser.
They put me in Wayne's squad car, and the reason I know it was Wayne's squad car is because he kept it immaculate. And he always had this incense, the same incense, and I could smell the incense.
It was, according to Denise, no coincidence.
The police officer kept driving, and he kept looking in the rearview mirror up at me, smiling.
Was this covert act of vengeance a harbinger of things to come? At her arraignment on May 2nd, 2005, prosecutors charged Denise with murder. And based on the evidence contained in her chain of suicide notes, they were fairly certain of a conviction.
We had a very strong circumstantial case to begin with that was only bolstered by the fact that she had confessed not once, but twice in those notes.
Coming up, prosecutors have a strong case against Denise. But with her in a wheelchair, half blind and partially paralyzed, will a jury decide she'd suffered enough? In the spring of 2006, more than a year after she was charged with the murder of her boyfriend Wayne Irby, Denise Miller met with her court-appointed attorneys at the Denton County Jail. Despite suffering partial paralysis and apparent amnesia from a self-inflicted gunshot wound, a psychological evaluation had found Denise competent to stand trial.
She understood the charges against her, and she understood what a judge was and what a jury did, and she understood all that, so there was nothing to prevent her being tried.
But would the case actually go that far? In the weeks leading up to her trial, the Denton County District Attorney's Office had been working on a deal that would offer Denise a reduced sentence of 20 years in prison in exchange for her guilty plea.
We were aware of the fact that Miss Miller was now in a wheelchair and that there could be an issue of sympathy.
The question now was, would Denise take the prosecution's offer? The answer was no.
In my mind, I don't recall what happened, but I just would not deliberately do something like this.
She said, I love your son, and she said, I just can't remember.
She didn't want to plead guilty to something she couldn't remember.
Which, depending on how you looked at it, was either a drawback or an unexpected benefit.
She couldn't talk to her attorneys the way normal clients can talk and convey what had happened. But on the flip side, I did believe that jurors would find her somewhat sympathetic because of her physical limitations, her mental limitations, and just her lack of memory of this event.
Still, her attorneys would have a lot of explaining to do if Denise hoped to avoid a potential life sentence. Denise may not have remembered the shooting, but she had already confessed to it in a series of suicide notes.
Aside from the notes, we had other strong circumstantial evidence, and we had the fact that she tried to kill herself.
Little wonder that the mood around the defense table was decidedly grim when proceedings began at the Denton County Courthouse on July 10, 2006.
I like to think I'm optimistic, but going into the trial, I didn't really think that she had a chance of getting off. It was just a lot against her.
In their opening statements, Denton County prosecutors wasted no time laying out their case. They described Denise Miller as a jealous control freak that couldn't take no for an answer. And when Wayne threatened to leave her for good, prosecutors alleged Denise killed him.
She went over there with the full intent of if she couldn't have him, no one could.
And prosecutors asserted there was plenty of circumstantial evidence to back up that claim.
The gun ended up belonging to her. She left notes at the scene. She went somewhere and tried to kill herself after killing him.
Denise's defense team, in their open, didn't dispute the state's claim that Denise had killed Wayne. However, they argued that his death was simply a tragic accident. Defense attorneys pointed to her suicide note, written just moments before Denise had put a pistol to her head and pulled the trigger.
This is somebody's dying declaration. And right there in the note, there was a sentence that said, I shot him or killed him accidentally.
If you're going to kill yourself, why would you write a lie right before you died?
For prosecutors, the challenge was obvious. Prove that contrary to the defense's claims, Denise had very deliberately shot Wayne Irby.
This was not an accident. Denise had taken that gun, because that was her gun that she used, was not Wayne's. She had taken that gun over to the residence.
Worse for Denise, according to a report from the Texas Department of Safety Crime Lab, there was no way she could have pulled the trigger by accident.
We had the trigger pull tested on the gun, and it took 4.5 to 5 pounds of pressure to pull that trigger, which is fairly substantial when you're considering, one finger.
Next, prosecutors called the Tarrant County medical examiner to the stand. Wayne's injuries, according to his testimony, also argued against an accident.
She couldn't have hit him better if she tried. It was a dead-on shot to the back of his head from a fairly short distance away.
But the most damning evidence prosecutors contended were Denise's own actions in the immediate aftermath of the shooting.
If you truly accidentally shot somebody, the first thing you would do is call for help. And she never did that. She fled.
But what about Denise's multiple suicide notes? Prosecutors urged jurors to judge the body of the work and not one line possibly taken out of context. According to prosecutors, the first note, the one found in Denise's house and most likely written before Wayne was shot, clearly indicated Denise was preparing to do something drastic.
In the first letter, she doesn't mention anything about an accident.
And while the note in the hotel room did say the shooting was an accident, that wasn't all it said.
It also contained references to "I did a horrible thing," "Thou shalt not kill." The rest of even that note contradicted the fact that it was an accident.
Finally, rather than focus on the wheelchair-bound woman sitting at the defense table, prosecutors urged the jury to remember just who the real victim was in this whole tragedy.
I think the prosecution did an excellent job of reminding the jury that this pitiful woman sitting before them is in that condition by her own hand.
She's the one that chose to murder Wayne Irby, which then caused her to choose to shoot herself.
On July 12th, Denise's attorneys rested without calling any witnesses.
They couldn't put her on the stand because she doesn't remember it.
But in their closing statements, the defense also turned to Wayne's autopsy report to bolster their contention Denise hadn't intended to kill Wayne. After all, if Denise was indeed the bitter, scornful lover that prosecutors depicted, then why, defense attorneys argued, hadn't the shooting been more malicious?
There was only one shot. He was not shot multiple times.
And how exactly had the pistol gotten into Denise's hands? Since their client claimed she couldn't remember the shooting, defense attorneys could only speculate.
My theory was she didn't think it was loaded.
And as the defense reminded jurors, Denise had even managed to load one gun backwards. And guns, as the defense reminded jurors again and again, were only one of the many things Denise didn't know anything about, including the crime she was on trial for.
I don't remember if it was day. I don't remember if it was night. I don't know what day it was. I don't know what I did the day before. I don't know what I did that morning. I don't even know if he and I were together that morning. All I know is what people tell me.
She was completely disabled. She won't be able to work. She was in a wheelchair. She had very limited cognitive ability.
Denise was, in effect, all but helpless, unable to even take the stand in her own defense.
There was no use in putting her up on the witness stand to say, I don't remember, I don't remember, I don't remember.
Coming up, which will weigh more on the jury's mind? The case against Denise or her disabled condition?
She was so incapacitated at this point, I didn't think that the jury would see her as a continuing threat to society.
The murder trial of 40-year-old Denise Miller concluded on July 12, 2006. Charged with the death of her boyfriend, police officer Wayne Irby, it was now up to a jury to decide if she was guilty of the crime. It was, even as the jury filed back into the courtroom with a verdict, something Denise herself was unsure of.
She had tried to commit suicide and shot herself in the head. She had absolutely no memory of the case.
It just seemed like a major nightmare.
But was Denise's nightmare almost over? Or was it about to get worse? Inside the Denton County Courthouse, the judge read the verdict aloud.
They came back with a guilty verdict, and I was crying.
When I heard it, like my body got flushed, and I just kind of, I don't know, I just kind of left for a little bit, and then it kind of hit me, and then I started to cry.
Denise's disability hadn't swayed the jury's verdict, but would they really send a wheelchair-bound woman to prison?
In my mind, this case was always about punishment. Will they feel sorry for her because she's in a wheelchair?
If they did feel sorry for Denise, jurors still had a chance to show it. They may have found her guilty, but when it came to handing down a sentence, they could opt for as little as 5 years in prison or even probation.
She was so incapacitated at this point, I didn't think that the jury would see her as a continuing threat to society.
I was looking forward to receiving probation, but, not knowing.
And when her sentencing hearing began that evening, Denise's attorneys did their best to secure it.
Denise's defense team did try to kind of paint her in a sympathetic light They told the jurors that while she had the knowledge of what happened to Officer Irby, she didn't have the memory of it.
Denise might not remember the incident, but according to the jury, that didn't excuse her from taking full responsibility for what she'd done. On July 13, 2006, they sentenced Denise to 62 years in prison for the murder of Wayne Irby.
I think the 60 year was a just sentence. She was given an opportunity to get less, and she refused it.
Denise's daughter, on the other hand, considers the 62 years excessive, even though she accepts her mother's guilt.
I think it was unfair. I mean, what she did was wrong, of course, but I do think it was unfair.
After all, according to Whitney, her mother is already serving another sentence, even if it was self-inflicted.
Her left side was paralyzed, but she's trying to make the best of it. She's improved a lot, and she can walk without a cane.
But while Denise's body has slowly recovered, her memory hasn't.
It's very frustrating when you don't know anything, when you don't know. It looks like I'm lying, but I'm not lying. I don't remember.
A bitter divorce ends in a mysterious disappearance.
On the dresser was his ring, his watch, his cell phone, all his personal things that he always wore.
Police wonder if the missing persons case could be a suicide.
He had just been laid off from his job. He was in a severe custody battle.
I think, oh my God, maybe he got in his truck and ran it off a cliff.
Or had there been someone else with a motive to make him disappear?
Sweetheart.
Girl Tim Schuster was due to meet a friend in the morning, but he never showed up for the appointment.
We were supposed to meet for breakfast. Went there, couldn't find him.
Tim is punctual. If he's going to be late, he calls you. So they started calling on the cell phone. They could not reach Tim.
By that afternoon, there was still no sign of Tim. Mary Solis and her husband Bob called police to Tim's house and waited as officers searched the premises.
I was scared for Tim. Very scared for Tim.
Tim's friends had reason for concern. It was no secret that Tim and his wife Larissa were in the midst of an acrimonious divorce.
No one would budge, and that certainly flared a lot of emotions, a lot of anger.
But the impending divorce wasn't all Tim had to worry about. He'd also recently lost his job. Had it all become too much?
He was laid off, and I thought maybe the poor guy just couldn't take it anymore. So I suspected suicide.
For answers, the investigators turned to Tim's estranged wife, Larissa. But the 43-year-old chemist seemed as baffled as the police.
Is he capable of just packing up, cashing out a bunch of money and going somewhere else thinking I need maybe when you to snap and do that? Is he capable of doing that?
I don't know that. I don't know.
You think he would leave your son and not see him?
My gut tells me that no, that he probably wouldn't do that.
Was Larissa's gut instinct accurate? Or had Tim become a man she no longer knew? Tim and Larissa Schuster first met in 1982 at a hospital in Columbia, Missouri. Tim was a nurse, and Larissa was working as an aide while she finished her degree in biochemistry at the University of Missouri.
One thing led to another, and they started dating and just decided to get married.
Things started well for the young couple. In 1985, they had a daughter, Kristen, and 4 years later, the family made a cross-country move to California. Larissa, who was now an established biochemist, had been offered a research job with Pan Agricultural Labs outside Fresno, California.
It was a very lucrative job, so she basically moved her entire family out to California to make her career.
Tim took a job in the cardiac unit of Fresno's St. Agnes Medical Center. But it was Larissa's paycheck that bought their big house in the Fresno suburbs.
See if there's anybody home.
Take your shoes off before you come in, please.
Yeah, that's a typical request. And I'm going to turn the tour over to the boss.
Larissa was the lab manager, She had quite a large group under her.
And as in her relationship with Tim, Larissa quickly established who was boss.
She could be very aggressive, put you in your place.
After her son was born in 1990, Larissa also lorded over a growing family at home.
Mom was the disciplinarian, a very domineering parent. She had the upper hand.
In 1997, Larissa decided to leave her job at Pan Ag to start her own lab.
Larissa noticed that the business was starting to go downhill, so she decided to start her own, and she called it Central California Research Labs.
While Larissa built her new business, it was up to Tim to fill the void at home.
Larissa became more and more involved with her lab. Tim was basically forced to take over the role of Mr. Mom and just became basically the person who was in charge of running the household.
Tim held things together at home, but he struggled to meet Larissa's increasingly demanding standards.
He was the puppet, and he did what he was told to do.
She was the one who wore the pants in the relationship. That was something that she made very clear.
Dad was kind of the soft teddy bear. He just kind of let it roll.
Larissa, of course, didn't. And that became a real problem when daughter Kristen became a teenager.
I was the normal teenager that rebelled, did everything that she probably didn't want me to do.
Larissa responded by shipping Kristen off to Missouri.
Larissa decided that they needed to move their daughter back to Missouri, which is where Larissa's parents were living.
Tim, as usual, had little to do with the decision.
He knew that whatever he had to say, it wouldn't matter to her anyway, so it was almost better for him to just keep his mouth shut.
But Kristen's move added to the distance between Larissa and Tim. In the months that followed, the couple barely spoke.
They basically were two separate people going about their lives, living in the same house.
They were sleeping in separate rooms for quite a while, years, maybe longer.
In February 2002, Larissa filed for divorce.
She kept telling him she wanted him out. He needed to get out.
Tim, for once, didn't do what he was told. Instead, he hired a lawyer and fought Larissa on everything from custody of their son to the division of the couple's assets.
She wanted full custody of my brother, and my dad wasn't going to have it.
He had a right to want some of the things that they had shared and built together. He finally decided he was going to stand up for himself.
One weekend in July of 2002, Tim took matters into his own hands. While Larissa was away visiting her daughter and parents in Missouri, he loaded up what he figured was his share of the property and left.
He moved into a condo. It was one of the first times that he decided to stand up for himself, take his own initiative, and to make a decision without Larissa's approval.
Larissa, returning home to a half-empty house, was furious.
I'll never forget that phone call that she made to me, just every expletive, every name in the book.
She was so mad because he stood up to her. How dare you do that to me? Nobody crossed Larissa and nobody stood up to her.
You're a real chicken shit, aren't you? Instead of coming in here and doing this while I was here and making this a little bit better, no, you had to tuck your f***ing tail. I want all of my grandmother's doilies, and I better, by God, see those mixing bowls.
But missing housewares weren't Larissa's only problem. Without Tim around to play Mr. Mom, she needed help looking after their 12-year-old son and turned to a 20-year-old, James Fagoni.
He was a lab technician at Larissa's laboratory. Very quiet to himself, rode a motorcycle. And I just always thought, sweet kid.
In some ways, his personality is very similar to Tim's. He's passive, he's a shy guy.
And James, much like Tim, was more than willing to follow Larissa's lead.
Larissa needed someone to take care of her child quite often. So James would stay at Larissa's house for hours on end.
He was the errand boy for her, babysitting for my brother, picking him up from school events.
Some of James's errands went well beyond babysitting, though. One night, while Tim was out of town in August of 2002, James helped Larissa break into her husband's condo.
She explained to him the split and how he took this property and she needed to get it back.
Larissa didn't stop there, however.
Drawers were pulled out and emptied. Baskets were just tossed.
She took a knife to the Ralph Lauren bedding.
She also told her friends all about it.
She said, I saw what I did, and it just gave me this. She says, this orgasm that was better than sex.
I remember the excitement in her voice and how she was so pleased she got away with it.
Tim knew it was not a random break-in, but decided not to file charges.
He knew that she had done it, but my dad he wanted to let it go.
However, he was less forgiving when it came to the divorce. Moving out of the condo and into a house, he continued to contest every detail of the proceedings. And the more Tim fought, the more enraged Larissa became.
She would also not hesitate to call and yell and leave horrible, horrible messages on Tim's machine.
That's what you are. You couldn't even that dog. You're just an impotent, gay
Insults from his estranged wife weren't the only blows Tim's self-esteem took. In July of 2003, word came down from hospital management that layoffs were coming. Tim was on the list of those to be let go.
He's going through a horrendous divorce, horrendous custody issue. He's getting laid off.
Tim's friend Mary Solis was also losing her job. On July 10th, the co-workers were both scheduled to meet with the hospital's Human Resources Department to discuss their layoffs.
We were going to meet at 10 o'clock after his meeting. His meeting was first, he was going to let me know, okay, well, here's the kind of questions you need to ask.
But that morning, Tim never showed.
We were supposed to meet for breakfast. Went there, couldn't find him.
They started calling on the cell phone. They could not reach Tim. They called his home. They could not reach Tim.
Stranger still, when Mary went to her meeting with the HR representative later that morning, she discovered Tim had skipped his appointment.
The personnel person said, I guess Tim didn't want to talk.
Concerned about where Tim might be, Mary and Bob began calling Tim's friends. One of the first was Vic Uribe.
Bob says, can you go by the house and see if he's all right? Because they were trying to call him all day.
Vic immediately drove over to Tim's.
I went into the house through the side door in the garage, and I looked around.
There was no sign of Tim, and after a quick look around, Vic became worried.
The cell phone was on the dresser, and he never went anywhere without that cell phone. That cell phone was with him 24/7.
Vic called us, and then I became not only concerned, I was scared for Tim.
A few minutes later, Bob and Mary met Vic at the house. On the way over, they contacted the police.
They came over, went through the house.
I didn't know if I was going to find somebody that had just committed suicide. I didn't know if I was going to run into somebody that was despondent.
I was pretty scared. I didn't know what was going to happen when they came back out. I didn't know what they were going to find.
Coming up, police turned to Tim's estranged wife for answers. But would she cooperate?
Why did you feel the need not to tell us about that?
I don't know. I shouldn't have. Looking back now, I shouldn't have told you, but I don't know. It's a mistake.
On the afternoon of Thursday, July 10th, 2003, Clovis, California police entered the home of Tim Schuster. He'd been missing for almost 24 hours, and friends feared the worst.
He was going through a bitter divorce. He had just been laid off from his job. He was in a severe custody battle, and just not a lot of good things were going Tim's way.
But after a thorough search of the house, there was no sign of Tim, dead or alive. What the police did find, however, was little comfort for Tim's anxious friends.
The police found his wallet, his keys, his cell phone.
I knew something was wrong. I had a real bad feeling at that time.
On Friday morning, as soon as Tim had been missing for the required 24 hours, friends Bob and Mary Solis filed an official missing persons report.
We thought maybe he went jogging, and got hit, by a car and was, somewhere We didn't know.
We were looking for people that we could talk to help shed some light on perhaps what had happened to him or where he had gone.
One of the first calls was to Tim's estranged wife, Larissa. On Friday evening, police asked her to come down to the station to answer a few questions. Larissa told police she had little to give them.
She first told me it had been weeks since she'd called him.
Tim and I are going through divorce. And it's just been stretched out for a long time, and we've had a difficult time communicating verbally, so we don't do that. I mean, there's been times when we go for 3 weeks.
Larissa's statement was inconsistent with something investigators had found during the search of Tim's house.
On July 10th, there was a phone call at about 2 o'clock in the morning, and the phone number came back to being the cell phone number of Larissa Schuster.
Investigators gave Larissa another chance to tell them about the phone call they knew she'd made to Tim the morning he disappeared.
No phone calls or anything from him or anything in that time frame? No unusual activity? Or was there?
Not that I recall. I remember waking up on the couch and I had my cell phone and it looked like I might have hit a number or something.
But when the detectives asked to see her cell phone to verify that Tim's number was located on the speed dial, Larissa stalled.
You have your cell phone?
No, I don't. I don't have it here.
Where's your cell phone at?
I have it at home.
At home?
Yes.
When she told me that she had left her cell phone at home, I thought it was unusual because she had already told us that she had left her young son at home with a babysitter. Calling a short break in the questioning, Detective Wybert walked outside to Larissa's car. On the center console, I did see a cell phone sitting there. I went ahead and took my cell phone out, dialed her cell phone number, and the phone inside the car began to ring. The detective stepped back into the station and asked Larissa to unlock her car. Her demeanor, the way that she was acting, she became very nervous. Her voice was cracking. Her hands were shaking. Back in the interrogation room, Detective Wybert leaned on Larissa. None of the speed dial settings were set to Tim's number.
2 is CCRL, that's your office. 3 is Larissa, that's your home. 4 we already tried.
Caught in a lie, Larissa admitted the truth.
Okay. I made the call.
Okay.
I was not sleeping well. I haven't slept well for a while.
Why did you feel the need not to tell us about that?
I don't know. Because I guess the call was so late at night, it seemed kind of a mistake.
Larissa knew the call looked bad, but according to what she told police, it didn't have anything to do with Tim's sudden disappearance.
Larissa, let me ask you this. Are you the type of person that could have anything to do with him missing?
No, not at all. No, I can't. I mean, we've had our problems and I dislike him and we haven't been able to get along, but I couldn't do that to my son. I couldn't do that.
When the interview was over, detectives let Larissa go home. But when her friend Tammy Belshea called the next morning, Larissa was obviously rattled.
She felt that the phone was bugged, and so she said, "I cannot talk about it. Can you come over here?"
When Tammy arrived, Larissa explained that police suspected she had something to do with Tim's disappearance.
She calmly told me about what had happened, that they did ask her about specific calls that were made to Tim, where she was, what she was doing, and that sort of thing.
The next step, Tammy warned her friend, would be a search warrant.
Her response to me was, "Well, they can't do that. I'm going out of town on Sunday. They can't serve me."
Tammy tells Larissa, well, no, you don't understand. If they get a search warrant, then, they can go in there without your permission.
I said, "Now, Larissa, they will go to your office and go through your things. They will do that at the house as well if there's reason to believe that they need to pursue that."
The statement provoked an odd reaction from Larissa.
She got up, and I thought was very abrupt, said, "Tammy, can you watch Tyler? I need to go to the lab and take care of some things. I got to do payroll and pay bills."
After Larissa's sudden departure, Tammy was alone in the house with Tyler.
I had plans in the afternoon, so I stressed to Larissa I could only watch Tyler until a certain time.
Several hours passed without any sign of Larissa. Tammy made repeated calls to her cell phone and office, before Larissa finally picked up.
She says, "Oh, I've just been busy. I'm paying bills. You can go ahead and leave. Tyler will be fine." So I left and did not think anything more of it.
At least not until she arrived at work on Monday morning.
One of her chemists, Leslie, came into my office and she closed the door and she said, "When Larissa was here and you were calling, did you know I was here as well?"
The chemist, Leslie Dobbs, told Tammy she'd been working on Saturday when Larissa asked her a favor: to call the local U-Haul office and reserve a truck for that afternoon. Odder still, Leslie had been instructed to rent the truck in her name, not Larissa's.
I looked at Leslie and I encouraged her to go to the police department.
The police hadn't been idle since questioning Larissa on Friday evening. Tim's estranged wife was only the first person they'd contacted about his disappearance.
I started calling everybody that was in his contact list.
James Fagoni's name was on a Palm Pilot that was found in Tim Schuster's house. James had, on occasion, babysat Tyler. So police officers wanted to interview him.
Since James had worked with her in the lab, we knew that James and Larissa were friends to some degree.
On Monday, the police brought James in for questioning. During his interview, James confessed to breaking into Tim's condo a year earlier.
He said, "Yeah, I was with her and we went in and got some of her property back."
James also admitted that with Larissa's encouragement, he'd helped himself to some of Tim's property.
She basically told James that in exchange for you helping me, you can take some of the electronics, the TV, stereo equipment, etc.
That afternoon, the police let James go. They had more important things to investigate than a year-old burglary. Larissa, based on what James told them, wouldn't hesitate to break the law to get back at her husband.
More was going on here than Tim just being missing. We began to look at this as potentially a homicide.
Coming up, would Larissa really go as far as committing homicide? Or was murder merely the beginning?
It just didn't look real. You know, it looked like something for a horror film.
On Monday, July 14, 2003, Tim Schuster had been missing for 5 days. His friends who had filed a missing persons report with Clovis, California police feared the worst.
I said, "Look, we feel that our friend might be in danger or has hurt himself."
We didn't know. It was kind of sitting in limbo for a week.
If Tim's estranged wife, Larissa, was worried, it didn't stop her from taking a planned vacation.
She had planned this vacation for many weeks, and so she decided to go ahead and take this because it was very important for her to share that experience with Tyler.
But was a vacation all Larissa had been planning? Clovis, California police weren't so sure. Late Monday afternoon, they'd received an intriguing tip from Leslie Dobbs, a chemist who worked at Larissa's lab. On Saturday, July 12th, Larissa had asked Leslie to rent a U-Haul truck for her.
She did, in fact, rent a U-Haul truck for Larissa. Larissa then took the U-Haul truck and was gone for a period of time.
Where had Larissa gone? Leslie thought she knew.
She told police that Larissa had rented a storage unit, and she wasn't really sure what was going on.
The police were determined to find out. That afternoon, they sent an officer to check out the storage unit. Even from the parking lot, their suspicions were confirmed.
When the detective got on scene, he exited his vehicle and noticed a strong odor. As he got out of his car, he recognized that odor as the odor of decaying flesh.
When the officer opened the storage unit, the source of the odor was apparent. Partially hidden in the back of the room was a blue 55-gallon barrel. Police had a strong suspicion about what was inside.
We secured that location, held on to it. We wrote a search warrant for it and served that search warrant.
Detective Jim Cook helped conduct the search.
I stopped by the fire department and picked up a breathing apparatus. We had some concerns because of her history of chemical knowledge and her line of work. We weren't sure what we were going to find.
But other than the breathing apparatus, there was little to prepare detectives for what they did find.
Once the barrel was...
There was.
The whole complete upper portion was gone. It had just been dissolved.
And the fluid inside the barrel was a toxic stew of hydrochloric acid and the liquefied remains of what police suspected had been Timothy Schuster.
It looked like something for a horror film.
DNA analysis would be needed to establish the corpse's identity.
50% of him was totally dissolved.
The barrel was transported to the coroner's office. Holes were drilled to drain the fluid, and the grisly autopsy began.
The acid smell is just horrendous. They evacuated the whole building.
In addition to the acid, lab analysis of the remains revealed the presence of another chemical, chloroform, which could have contributed to Tim's death.
I left the cause of death as a probable acute chloroform exposure and hydrochloric acid immersion.
On July 15th, several Clovis police officers boarded a plane to Missouri, where Larissa was heading on the second leg of her vacation.
She had had a planned vacation with her son, and we were aware of where she was going.
That same afternoon, investigators also brought in James Fagoni for another talk. And this time, James told police about another trip he'd taken with Larissa to Tim Schuster's home. Only this time, according to James, what Larissa had in mind wasn't just a burglary.
It was this time we're going to teach him a lesson.
They went there with zip ties. He went there with chloroform. He went there with a stun gun.
To get Tim to open his front door, James said Larissa called Tim and told him their son was ill.
Which was the phone call that was received at 0202 hours in the morning from Larissa's cell phone.
He opened the door and stunned him and took him down, and then she bound him, and then, before I know it, I couldn't tell if he was alive or not.
James said they dragged Tim into the back of his truck and drove him to Larissa's house. That's where, according to James, they'd put Tim in the barrel, head first.
James told me that at that point, Larissa began grabbing glass bottles and pouring liquid into the barrel on top of Tim's body. I asked him what those bottles were, and he said that he wasn't certain, but he believed that they were acid.
And how many got poured in?
I think she did 1 or 2 or 3, and then she couldn't handle it anymore.
And how many did you pour after that?
I didn't pour.
James claimed the barrel remained hidden in Larissa's tool shed overnight. Then, after police questioned her about Tim's disappearance, Larissa had panicked.
He told me that she said, "I can't leave him in the shed, you have to help me."
According to James, they moved the body to the lab and added more acid. Then, after Tammy Belche's visit on Saturday, James said he'd received another nervous phone call from Larissa. Informing him that it was time to move the body again, she asked James to rent a U-Haul. James said he'd refused.
She was saying, get a friend to rent a truck or whatever, and I didn't want to. I wasn't going to. I didn't want to get pulled in any further. It was terrible enough as it is.
There was no plan to kill Timothy Schuster. There was never any discussion of killing Timothy Schuster.
The police saw things differently. When the interrogation was over, they placed James under arrest and charged him with murder in the first degree.
I don't think that James Fagoni intended to kill Tim Schuster. What we did know is that he planned to stun him with a stun gun and rob him. Something along those lines took place, and somehow Mr. Schuster died.
By that afternoon, word of the arrest and the grisly discovery that led to it was all over the local news.
We just heard on the news that they had discovered the barrel and the contents of the barrel, and I just remember screaming, "Oh no."
Not long after, the news reached Missouri. Larissa's daughter Kristen, expecting a visit from her mother, instead received word of her father's death.
I just broke out in tears. You go from, okay, my dad's missing, but want to think he's okay to, okay, my dad was found in pieces.
On Wednesday morning, July 16th, police were waiting when Larissa stepped off a plane at the St. Louis airport.
But at no point did she ask, what happened to Tim? At no point did she ask, how did he die?
Transported back to California, Larissa was also charged with first-degree murder. Unlike James, she refused to talk.
Detectives had intended to go ahead and interview her regarding the crime and try and get a statement from her. However, she chose to wish to speak to an attorney.
Therefore, to build their case against Larissa, investigators had to take James's statement as a starting point.
Not only did he confess, but he confessed with details that could be corroborated.
With James's cooperation, police spent the next several days compiling evidence.
He told us that he had thrown a stun gun into a porta potty on the outskirts of town. I asked him to draw me a map. Armed with that information, we were eventually able to fish out that stun gun.
They found a bottle in James' bedroom, and he voluntarily said, oh, that contained the chloroform.
At Larissa's lab, police seized computers and business files and searched the premises.
They located 6 empty acid bottles in the dumpster outside of the lab.
Also in the lab were receipts for 18 2-liter bottles of hydrochloric acid and an acid-resistant 55-gallon barrel.
Talking to the employees, that's not anything that was ever ordered before, was not needed for any test that the company was running.
Since her lab started, she had never had the need for more than really 1 or 2 gallons of hydrochloric acid each year.
Typically, according to lab employees, the acid was used to clean test tubes. But information found on Larissa's computer led police to believe she'd ordered it with something else in mind.
She conducted a series of Google searches, and she looked up the words acid, digestion, and animal tissue.
Finally, using Larissa and James's cell phone records and the storage company's logs, police retraced Larissa's steps over the course of the last 5 days. What they found largely confirmed James's confession.
What he told us tied in perfectly with the cell phone call that we found in her cell phone records. It tied in perfectly with the property that we had discovered during the search. It tied in perfectly with the barrel that the body was discovered in.
And while Clovis police collected the evidence, prosecutors went to work on James.
It was anticipated some plea agreement would be reached with James Fagoni to have him testify in this case.
But when James refused to make a deal, the DA had little choice but to proceed with prosecution.
California, if you commit a murder while also committing the crime of robbery or residential burglary, then you have the potential of facing the death penalty or life in prison without the possibility of parole.
James stood trial in November of 2006, well before Larissa's scheduled court date.
James' case was an easier case to prosecute than Larissa's because he confessed.
Of course, James had only confessed to helping rob Tim Schuster, not killing him. But that detail could mean he was guilty of committing a felony murder. It would be up to the jury to decide.
We, the jury in the above entitled action, find the defendant, James Fagoni, guilty of first-degree murder of Timothy Schuster.
The verdict was guilty of first-degree murder with the special circumstance of during the commission of a burglary. He was sentenced ultimately to life without the possibility of parole.
Coming up, Larissa gets her day in court.
Did you kill your husband?
No, I did not kill my husband.
When Larissa Schuster filed for divorce in February of 2002, her husband Tim had hired a lawyer and fought every step of the way. But the bitter legal battle ended in July of 2003 when Tim Schuster's semi-dissolved body was found stuffed inside a barrel of acid.
5 or 6 months later, we finally got a DNA positive ID on it. After a couple of tries, we were able to send in a sample that that the DNA lab could use.
I really started thinking about who could have really done this, and then when they arrested her, everything started to click.
Charged with her husband's murder, Larissa Schuster stood trial in October of 2007 in a case that had sparked a media frenzy.
Given that publicity, there was a motion for change of venue. Judge Ellison granted that, and we moved the case to Los Angeles.
The change of venue wasn't the only thing working to Larissa's advantage when she walked into an LA courtroom on October 22nd. Alleged co-conspirator James Fagoni, already convicted for his role in the crime, wasn't on the prosecution's witness list.
We just couldn't reach a mutually agreeable sort of plea agreement that would allow him to testify against Larissa.
James's testimony wasn't all the prosecutors lacked either. The judge, since James wouldn't take the stand, had ruled James's police interrogation video and any mention of it off limits.
A person has a right to confront and cross-examine any evidence or witnesses or statements made against them. And that could only occur if James testified.
In his opening statement on October 22nd, prosecutor Dennis Peterson laid out a case that relied entirely on circumstantial evidence.
The circumstantial case involved a substantial number of witnesses and a lot of pieces to this puzzle.
And while prosecutors didn't have an eyewitness to the murder, they did call several to testify about Larissa's threats to kill Tim. Friend and manicurist Terry Lopez testified on October 24th.
And she said, "I will see him dead before he touches a penny of my money." And she just looked at me and she said, "And don't think I won't."
To back up Terry's testimony, prosecutors turned to Larissa herself. On October 25th, they played tapes of the messages she'd left on Tim's voicemail.
"You're such a wimp, you have no spine, and you're a f***ed. That's what you are, a f***ed. I hate your f***ing guts so bad I can't even stand you. I hope you burn in hell."
But did Larissa's venom mean she killed Tim and attempted to destroy his body with acid? On November 2nd, Tammy Belshea took the stand and testified about Larissa's Saturday trip to the office, the one where she'd supposedly paid some bills.
The prosecution really wanted me to summarize that Saturday, what I suggested to her and what our discussions were and how she abruptly left and what I think they felt was the whole domino effect that led her to do other, cleanup type items.
Then the prosecution laid out all those dominoes one by one. The computer searches researching how to dispose of a body with acid, the truck rental, and the receipts recovered from her business.
The evidence plainly spoke to the fact that she's the one who personally ordered these enormous quantities of acid. She's the one who personally ordered that open-top barrel.
But the defense, when they started presenting their case on November 6th, argued that none of that evidence directly connected Larissa to Tim's murder.
There was no forensic physical evidence produced that would suggest that Larissa was ever in his home such that she would have been in a position to bring harm to him.
And even though James Fagoni's testimony was not allowed in Larissa's trial, his conviction was.
The defense theory was that James was acting on his own.
But if James had killed Tim, what was Larissa doing on Saturday with the U-Haul? On November 14th, Larissa took the stand in her own defense. Step 1, pin Tim's death squarely on James.
She said that on Friday night, right after she had gotten back from her interview with police, she goes back to her house where James was babysitting her son. And James, in some type of frantic state, tells her, something happened to Tim.
She only found out after the fact that he was dead and that his body was inside of a barrel.
Then Larissa testified that she panicked and told James to get rid of the body.
She knew, based on all the things that she had said about her estranged husband, that she would be the one suspected of killing him.
She decided that instead of calling police, she was going to help James dispose of the body.
According to Larissa, that's why she'd spent Saturday scrambling to rent the U-Haul and move the barrel to the storage unit.
There was this substantial body of really compelling circumstantial evidence against her. And her explanation, of course, is that she was just assisting after the fact. She had nothing to do with the actual planning or murder of her husband.
And that was only the beginning of Larissa's lengthy explanation.
The barrel was actually shipped inadvertently, and we were able to show that that's not exactly what was ordered. But it came, she hung on to it, and she was ultimately going to take it home and use it around the house.
And the massive order of acid? It was true that Larissa's lab had never needed so much before.
She had planned for some time a wholesale cleaning of all of her glassware.
Methodically, like the scientist she was, Larissa attempted to explain away every piece of the prosecution's circumstantial evidence.
She was very calm. She had an answer for everything.
Unflappable is probably a pretty good description. She never flinched.
Did you kill your husband?
No, I did not kill my husband.
Coming up, will Larissa's unflappable testimony sway the jury? Or will the chemist's calm, calculating demeanor be her downfall?
She was accused of killing her husband in the very way that she works.
On December 10th of 2007, the jury retired to determine a verdict in the case of Larissa Schuster. The chemist prosecutors claimed had ended her bitter divorce by killing her husband with acid.
A biochemist who's accused of killing her husband in the very way that she works. From the get-go, a lot of people felt she was guilty.
Would the jury? According to Larissa's attorney, the prosecution's entire case was a very unscientific pile of circumstantial evidence.
They were unable to place her in any context that would fit within his disappearance and killing.
At noon on December 12th, the jury returned with its verdict.
The verdict was guilty of first-degree murder and a finding of that the murder was committed for financial gain.
At Larissa's sentencing, her daughter Kristen stood up and made a passionate victim's impact statement.
My heart has been broken, ripped out of my chest, stomped on, and then beat to a pulp. May your present and next life be filled with as much pain as you inflicted upon my father. Maybe later in life I can learn to forgive you, but I highly doubt it. So this is goodbye. Not just for now, but for good. This is goodbye as your daughter. I don't know if I will ever forgive her. I might.
It's Larissa to life without parole.
She's going to live in a very small room with none of the luxuries that she's used to and nothing left. So the things that she wished for him, she's actually gotten for herself.